to another episode of the High Point Podcast. Today I have a special guest, Mann, NFL player, CFL player, entrepreneur, philanthropist, founder of Man Up Athletics. That's probably the most professional intro I've given so far. Mo, how are you doing?
Man, appreciate it though, JB, man. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to, catching up with you, man. I know we've had some times that we've passed, man, our conversations, and now it's good to finally be, man, a part of your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's been cool, this podcast journey, just because, in the CFL, like, we're not big name athletes, but I feel like we get an opportunity to meet a lot of different people. And I met you in passing, so I'll give you a little bit of the first time I heard about you. I was at the Hershey Center. I was going into my rookie year, and I was training with Shea Pierre. I'm sure you know who Shea is.
Yeah.
And we were at the Hershey Center, and you walked in. I think you were just talking to Dury and Chad Owens and those guys, and Shea was like, "Hey, Juwan, come over here. Like, that's Mann." I'm like, "Who's Mann?" He's like, "Man, he runs the coldest routes. Like, he was unstoppable." He's like, "Go over there and talk to him." And I was like, "Man, I'm not going over there and talking to him. I don't know this guy. He's gonna think I'm weird." You know what I mean? So that was the first time I ever heard about you. And then I had seen you pop up on my Explore page, and I hit a follow, and I just saw all the different things that you were doing with sports performance. I think you also do real estate as well. Is that right?
No real estate though for me, man. I should, man, though, with
Yeah.
the way the country's moving though recently.
Yeah, but small community in the CFL, lots of great talent, but just give the listeners, like, I guess, like, where, just like your origin story. That's how I always start, just trying to get people educated on who they're listening to.
Okay, yeah. Well, first off, again, man, thank you though for having me. I'm a California native. I returned back to California because I wanted to continue pursuing my passion, which was helping people, right? So just like yourself, when I met you, man, at the Hershey Center, I was only really in there, to run routes, but ultimately I've always been a coach, like, on the field. I've always, been that guy to where it was like, okay, man, you got to do this route and you got to do this route and we got to do all that stuff. So I've always wanted to coach, always. So, football and being able to play pro was just a vessel to help me getting to where I wanted to be, really. It took me a long time to retire, that's for sure. It took me a long time to settle in with the idea that I wasn't playing professional though anymore. So, the origin story starts by ways of playing Pop Warner in Seaside, California, and we won like a national championship. And man, I'm about to date myself. 1994, man, we won a national championship. We had a really good team. I scored the game-winning touchdown, and then it was it. It was like, I'm playing football forever, bro. Like, this is a wrap. So I went to Monterey High. And then I did the JUCO route, which I hope that we can tap into though later on. But I took the JUCO route. I did 2 years there. I was all conference, all state, all American guy. And then I went to Nevada, Reno. My good buddy is Nate Burleson and Neitram Flowers and George Cordova and a lot of the Nevada era, which was a Chris Tormey era. Chris Alt is a famous, he was famous though for the pistol. Everyone knows Cap. Cap is a solid dude. He came there a couple years after me. So I ended up getting drafted by Marvin Lewis though in the Bengals. Right, didn't have a lot of crazy though production though at that time, but let me tell people, man, a good interview can go a long way for sure. So I ran, some pretty solid times on the 40-yard dash. Anyways, went to the Bengals, and then I did the carousel. I became a knucklehead, man, in the NFL. I felt like I had made it, and then I did this whole, Dolphins and the Seahawks. But I went to the Seahawks. I was on the Dolphins. really when Nick Saban though was there when he had his first season. So it's a
Mm.
lot of like history though behind it. Then I went though to the Seahawks and then went to the Super Bowl. Got picked up though by the Vikings. That's where I got my first start to play in the NFL. Was on the Vikings, and then I got the release though from the Vikings though a couple years later and went up and started at Edmonton, um, which was really uh, the ultimate blessing because it really gave me a chance to, to restart my career. Man, we guys get started at 21. Now guys are making it though to the league at 25 and 26, and that maturity level was so crucial, man. Though JB, so yeah, and then I bounced around. I went to Hamilton. I won my first Grey Cup with Toronto, the 100th Grey Cup with Chad and Ricky Ray, who's the greatest quarterback of all time, arguable
That
with
was in
Mama on
Toronto,
that.
was it?
What would you say?
Was that one in Toronto?
That was in Toronto. We had a super all star studded team though that year too, right? So a lot of the really
Yeah.
good quarterbacks um, now were on that team. Trevor, Harris,
Yeah.
Jack, Caleros, right? That team kind of got, and those guys were rookies then. So that's kind of all about me as far as who I am and where I came from, really.
No, I mean, in a nutshell, it sounds like a really great career as as a football player. I feel like a lot of people, they hear about the top guys that, are the 1%. I think we're all 1%, right? If you look at the statistics of guys that make it to the CFL, the NFL, the UFL, whatever, we're all part of that 1%. But then there's the 1% of the 1%. But a
Yeah.
guy like you, like a lot of guys would kill to have that career, as far as like even having the opportunity to stick around and be able to play the game that you love and compete at the highest level. That's great on you. As far as, oh man, I think I remember watching that Grey Cup. That versus Calgary.
That was versus Calgary, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Justin Bieber performed at halftime. That's when
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
coming up.
Yeah, Beaver did. Don't
Yeah, I
perform.
think that was
Beans
at
was out
the
there.
yeah,
I
that was at
mean,
the Sky Dome before they stopped playing games over there.
yeah, man. I mean that, like his performance was probably the loudest part of the game, man. It was crazy, man. Nobody
Yeah.
could hear him though in the locker room, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was coming up. He had the little sideways hair and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
had a couple bangers back then. I remember that. But go actually I want to go to your JUCO days. Why did you end up playing JUCO? Was there just not a lot of recruiting coming your way? Was it academics? Have a lot of young guys that are running into problems where they're not getting recruited like they thought they would, or they're getting only D2 offers, D1 AA, JUCO. What was your recruiting situation like coming out of high school?
Man, though for me, it was a maturity level. I've always been you know, uh one of those kids that technically are on the border, right? On the border of being the older kid in the class and as opposed to the younger kid in the class. And my parents, at that time it was cool to kind of get your kid through school like early, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I graduated at 17. So, I was, a soaking wet 165 pounds, right? And they're you know, into the time to where there's multi-sport athletes though too as well. There's a lot of like we played everything, so there wasn't really a lot of football specific development type of humans around. So I always
Mm.
knew when I finished that was something that I would get into. But I felt like the JUCO route was the best way though for me to go because it gave me an opportunity to develop and still touch the ball. I wanted to go somewhere where I could still back then though you come though from a lot of running offenses and we kind of ran the ball a lot. So, there wasn't really a jug machine, so I felt like, man, I needed to work on like catching the ball more, and that's always been something that's been, something that emphasized until I met Chad Johnson. And I was like, oh, this is about your feet, right? And TJ,
Mm-hmm.
like Hushmanzada and Peter Warwick, like these guys were really, really effective, like route runners, and it kind of changed my whole like my whole grasp on what it was to really be a good like wide receiver. But the
Mm-hmm.
JUCO but the JUCO was a great experience though because I had a coach that really, truly though believed in my ability, and he made sure that I touched the ball, man, as much as he possibly could. So um, it wasn't grades, it was just a good opportunity though for me to exist in a place where I could still call it my home. I still went to my parents' house, after practice. I got a chance to run track and get faster, and that's really where I separated myself. As soon as I started to get to that 4.44 4.3 range, I'm like, okay, it's time to go to college now. But that's kind of how it started going, really.
The fact that you're a tall receiver and you could run a 4.4 4.3 is like really impressive. A lot of these kids, they see these guys running 4.2s 4.3s, they think it's normal. And I was
Yeah,
like, they asked me, Coach, what was your 40? And I'm like, I ran like a 4.5 4.58, and they're like, oh, that's kind of slow. And I'm like, is it? Because like, I was like 230, 6'4.5", 230. And I'm
yeah, no,
like, that's pretty fast for my size. So I was pretty
yeah,
proud of myself during that time. Um, but something that I'm curious to kind of to pick your brain about was you mentioned earlier that you felt like you played too long. You kind of hung on to playing too long. And what I ask a lot of the ex-pro athletes about is like that transition phase. Did you hang on to playing because like you were scared or you were a little bit nervous about what was next, or were you just not ready to let the game go yet?
yeah. I think the transition, right? It's like every athlete is really good because they prepare, right? They don't, and we did have some people that would talk about, okay, this is what you need to start to focus on what you're doing afterwards. And I was still in that, in that phase of, okay, this is what I'm going to transition to. So I already knew it, but you know you try to hold on to it though for as long as you can, and then once I realized that they wanted to start to cut the salary just to be able to stay a part of the team, I'm like, okay, all right, it's been a great run. It's time to go do something else. So yeah, man, my origin story of being in Canada though was pretty pretty crazy because I stayed up there, and I worked at Sports Pacific Training in Oakville, right? Just so I can
SST.
SST, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With Delroy, man, my guy, Delroy Rooms is a great, he was a great mentor for me, right? And I worked every day, all day, JB. I mean, I'm talking about from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. There was days I slept in the gym, just to figure out because I wanted to learn all I could. And then there was even
Mm-hmm.
a time, a crazy story is that I retired in 2013. A bunch of guys had got hurt, right? Because they were all at York, playing at York, right? So I ended up coming
Mm.
back, and I had been playing touch football up there, right? Are you familiar with the touch game?
Yeah, yeah, for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Okay, bet. Yeah. So I was playing touch football, right? And I was having a blast, man. It was so much fun. But because I was playing touch, I was in shape. I could go back out there, and it was like riding a bike. It was like it slowed the game down so much for me that I felt like, a lot of the times I was just jogging, like in a live CFL game. I felt like, okay, I figured this out so well. My timing got so much better. Um, you know, and I was still doing, man, the SST. So I would go to practice. I go back. I'd be training kids though in the gym. And this is for 2014. Uh, I went and I signed to be a part of the practice team first. So I was just
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be on the practice team. That week, I think 3 guys that though got hurt. You know what I mean? And I ended up starting a week later in a game with no training camp, no nothing, just kind of just because I knew the playbook already. So I ended up starting and leading the team in catches. Man, that next like weekend it was fun, man. So kind of you never know what's going to happen in life, but like preparation is always the main factor though for you being able to do what you love or do what you're chasing, right?
Mm-hmm. I had the same experience last year. Funny enough, I was coming home from my bachelor party because I got married in August. I was coming home from my bachelor party, and I get a
Congrats.
call. Thank you, I appreciate it. And I get a call saying, "Hey, we've had a bunch of injuries. We want to bring you in." But with my immigration status and everything, because I'm trying to become a U.S. citizen, I wasn't able to cross the border. So I wasn't able to take advantage of that opportunity. I would have had to talk to my wife about it, but I'm pretty sure she would have been like, all right, just go up to Toronto for a couple months. It was with Toronto, and then they ended up winning
Oh
the
man,
Grey Cup. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
crazy.
And it's the same thing as you, which is it's interesting because when you're young, right, you think everything is fat is like I need to go fast. I want to be fast. You're probably faster than you were when you got older. But then when you learn the game, especially the CFL game, you realize that a lot of it is timing, and you just need to be in a spot. And for me, mentally, I don't know about physically, but mentally, I'm still training. I'm still in shape and running and all that stuff. But I'm like, I feel like I could play till I'm 40 and still be effective on a football field because of like my football IQ and,
Mhm.
ability to read the defense and just be in a spot. So it's funny that you said that you were playing touch football and then, a couple weeks later, you're in a pro football game with, top level athletes and you're still effective.
Yeah, no, it definitely slowed the game down slowed the game down for me. Um, so uh, it helped big time. And it was just fun. It kind of just brought back the joy because a lot of pro football, you got to deal with a lot of outside noise. You have to be right with mind though to be able to play effectively at the pro level. So you got to be confident though with the person man you see in the mirror like every morning because you get some coaches that try to talk you off a cliff like you're the worst thing that ever existed on the football field, man. Um, so and that's why it kind of led to me doing the what I wanted to do. Like as much as I'm passionate though about coaching, it's about the influence that I want to give to kids and prepare them like for that mindset. It's like, man, you really have to be working though from ear to ear, right, to really be good at this next level. And then game speed, right? It's like I didn't learn it, but I was super fast, but at the same time, it's like my coaches, sometimes didn't really get me to figure out how to articulate my speed into my game until I was much older. All right, so once I figured it out, I'm like, oh man, as long as I can stay healthy, which was sometimes a challenge because of the way I trained, which is another kind of topic I think I changed a lot of. It became much easier.
What was the transition like from the NFL to the CFL for you? Did you feel like you were taking a step down? Were you just excited to keep playing football? Like what was that like for you at that point in your career?
Um, I didn't see it though as a step down. I really wanted to exhaust all my opportunities in the NFL, but at that time it wasn't really a lot of young rookie players getting the opportunities like it is now. You know what I mean? When
Mm-hmm.
they draft you now, you supposed to play right now. You know what I mean? Like Ladd, McConkey, some of these guys that are getting the opportunities to get right in there and get right in the mix, it's pretty cool. It's pretty special to see. So for me, like that transition was just about growth. It was about me though maturing, and spending time in a place that didn't know me and giving me a fresh start. So I saw it as that. It's like, man, here's a fresh start. Like here's a chance to, if you really say that you want to do this, like you gotta, take all the other outside stuff that sometimes I struggled with, and you have to put that stuff aside. Which is partying and being young, right? And I'm 20, young 20s though at the time, trying to learn, how to live a lifestyle of maintenance, really. So
Mm-hmm.
that transition from the NFL, of course, man, you take a hit, man, in your paycheck. Um, but it was a growth moment though for me. So I truly appreciate though, like, getting that opportunity, and especially realizing how important, man, a really good quarterback was. I mean, Ricky Ray made the game so easy. It's like he's made as many people can say that they are all stars. It's really about who delivers that ball to you, and Ricky was like one of the best, if not the best, though, to me, to this day.
Yeah, I've seen some great quarterbacks in the CFL. Played with a lot of great quarterbacks in the CFL. My rookie year, we played in the Grey Cup against Henry Burris, and
Oh yeah,
although he retired after that season, I think he went out. He went out like a movie.
man, he was
It
special.
was, oh my God, we were in Calgary, and we were in the Grey Cup, and Trevor was playing for Ottawa, so it was us versus Ottawa in the Grey Cup, and you know, we're thinking like, okay, we're confident anyways. We were a good team that year, and Trevor was warming up. We're thinking Trevor's going to play because Henry wasn't. He didn't practice all week. He didn't take any pre-game warm up reps or anything. And we're ready to go. And then all of a sudden, we see Henry Burris limp out on the field with a knee brace on, this big fat knee brace,
Yeah,
and he comes out and throws for like 450 on us and like 4 or 5 touchdowns and beats us in overtime.
crazy.
And I love him, but I hate him till this day for that
Yeah,
because that was my first Grey Cup I was supposed to have. But he's done a lot of great things, and he's a great dude. We actually keep in touch. But I was gonna ask, like, your rookie year, you talked about, developing and coming into the league. These guys were coming in ready to play. Did you have any OGs that kind of helped steer you? I know Chad Johnson, you talked about nutrition and habits. Chad is all about eating McDonald's and,
yeah.
just he works his butt off though. Like he stayed on the field, and he said he was always in the weight room. Did you take anything from guys like Chad or TJ Hushmanzada?
For me, Hoosh Hoosh was a really, important factor though in my, you know, and man, in my process, really, like he's a good leader. He was just a solid dude. He always was encouraging, never discouraging. You can get into some teams and they realize that people come in and take your job, and sometimes there are some people, man, on the team that won't tell you nothing, that won't say anything positive to you because they don't want you to have what they have, right? So TJ was one that kind of took me like under his wing, and I was grateful for it. I made a decision though to move on probably way too early, because honestly I didn't really trust my agent. That's another thing, right?
Mm,
I had someone that was more about him seeing his check as opposed to me seeing my development, right? Which probably could have brought him more. So
mm,
there's a lot of factors that I have to weigh on, like, as a person that, though in hindsight, it's like, man, when people say, man, I wouldn't have changed a thing, though in my life, I would have changed some football things,
hmm.
for sure. But I think God definitely has put me where I'm supposed to be able to give back and teach the kids, like, okay, here's what you should think about doing. Here's definitely what you shouldn't do. So,
Yeah, and it's great that you say that because as coaches, you and I, we have very similar journeys as far as like where we were and then where we're at now. Like I do sports performance, I do speed and agility, strength training, all that stuff. But I'm also like I take pride in being a mentor because as a coach, in like you're in a mentorship role as well. It's not just about clocking in, doing your job. Unless you just look at it as a job, then yeah, you can do that. But like, you have the opportunity to impact athletes on, athletes' futures,
Yeah.
and you become part of their support system, because what you quickly realize is a lot of these parents and a lot of these athletes, they really don't know much about anything but, okay, my kid needs to dominate at their sport. They need to have a great high school career and possibly get a scholarship, but they don't know all the distractions and all the things that come into play potentially once you get to the college level, but also even at the high school level. It's like a lot of politics, and how do we navigate this? How do you present yourself in front of these coaches? So as a coach, like, what would you say is like your philosophy or your approach to, I guess, coaching?
That's a good question. I think, like my philosophy is that I truly feel that athletes though should be, you know, watered like a tree. You know what I mean? Like realizing that there's probably more roots though underneath though than there is, leverage of branches though at the top. So what that means though to me is that, it's a holistic program now because, in one moment they could be viral, or in one moment they could be the opposite, which is a negative viral, which is damaging, like mentally, right? A lot of kids, are looking to to impress as opposed to just grow, right? So we always talk
Mm-hmm.
about the tree theory. It's like, man, you got to water yourself, but you got to make sure that the stuff that surrounds you, you know it's not like a rose growing through concrete, although it can happen. You want to be like in a good environment. You want to make sure that you have proper like influences. You want to make sure that that you're taking though your time and understanding that really long, a really long though career is based off patience, and that's doing what you're supposed to be doing when others aren't watching.
Mm.
If you have some sort of like integrity to, your craft, right? It shouldn't just be because you set your camera up and you train every day, which is still important, right? The content part is still important, but there's got to be some sessions to where you don't have no camera, right? There's got to be some times where you just decide, okay, man, this is my opportunity though to, push myself though past though my limit, and I can't set my camera up and walk past it and then I'll go put it down and walk past it and try to create, some content for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that every kid, you grow through what you go through, right? So if you can't, if you don't have an opportunity, man, to really go through some sort of adversity, and really figure out though how to battle, man, your way through that adversity, it's really hard for you uh, when the game gets rough or when times get tough or something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
our philosophy is a lot of holistic approach to watching Bruce Lee talk, and um, all this information that we have out there is really about the mind. And I try to teach athletes as much as I possibly can about um, teaching them though to be present more so, right?
Mm.
And then we can work on a craft, but you really have to be where you are to be good. You can't be thinking about other stuff and getting all sidetracked when it's time to like execute something. So that's what my coaching though philosophy is, like really trying to teach presence, really trying to get them to be where they are, like in their feet, and really focused on, you know, doing what needs to be done and not just worried about, what it looks like.
Judging by like your content and some of the things that you talk about, you and I are very similar as far as our approach to things. Like, I have like a couple pillars that I focus on as far as coaching, and I also use a holistic approach. So that's why I smiled when you said that, because I focus on like the physical, the mental, and the spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if I hit all three of those things, or I have the ability to impact all three of those things, and I can maximize my athlete's potential as much as possible. And you also feel different voids in their lives. You know, they might have a great home life, they might not. They might have a great relationship with their high school coach, they might not. They might believe in themselves, they might not. So it's like, okay, how can I kind of, you know, bring up where they lack? How can I help them improve where they lack? And one thing that I have had to kind of figure out as I go is kind of managing expectations, but not only expectations of the athlete, but the parents as well.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing that?
You know, I'm in a small community, and you know, the parents really trust. I mean, that's a blessing, right? I don't, you know, I'm dealing with parents that don't really, um, you know, discredit the work I've done though to get to this point, right? It's, you know, I've been working in my community since 2000 and technically 12. I've been throwing camps and doing stuff though in this area, and it's, you know, it's an opportunity though for me to give back. So that connection though with the parents, sometimes, you know, there has been a, you know, couple times where you have to deal with a parent that's just super extra, and it's like, man, come on, man. But really, I think it just, you know, it comes down to, you know, giving them a place to voice their concerns or whatever that sometimes doesn't directly entertain you. So what we do is we do a lot of email, right? If you know, if you have an issue, right, don't, you know, please don't approach me. You go to the email, we can talk and we can share our concerns, right? So emotion is not, you know, involved in the conversation though. So I mean, if that answers your question, though, that's kind of how we get down. Is like, you know, we spend a lot of time creating channels though for the people to be able to share what they think, you know, can help us, or things that they feel like they have a concern with, right? As opposed to, you know, you dealing with, you know, a parent that wants to argue with you over your kids like playing time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Honestly, I'm just honest with them. I tell them how I see it, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's like these things take time, and I feel like because of social media, and I feel like going back to what you said as far as patience, especially patience and development, parents they just think that like we're miracle workers sometimes. Like
Yeah,
you know, a parent will bring in their kid to get faster, but it's only been 2 weeks, and they're like, Johnny's not getting faster. It's been 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, Johnny didn't know how to run for a long time. Johnny doesn't, you know what I mean?
yeah,
He's
yeah,
been running the same way for 18 years.
yeah,
I can't change what he's done in 18 years in 2 weeks.
yeah.
Right. So give me some time and we'll see improvements. And even in 2 weeks, sometimes we see improvements as far as like how they feel, or, you know, maybe their times drop by a little bit, or they're getting a little bit more confident. Like that's improvement,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Just because they're not dropping, you know, from like a 4.9 to a 4.4 in 2 weeks doesn't mean that they're not improving or we're not working towards something.
Yeah,
So I feel like it's easier with the kids most of the time than the parents, especially like you said, when the kids know your background and they trust you, they get that buy-in, and they also have like autonomy. They have a say in like what we do sometimes, and how they're feeling. Then it's like, okay, now we can kind of get to work and we can approach this thing together as far as you know, as far as like the training. And it's not just me telling you what to do. It's like you understand what you're doing, you understand why you're doing it.
yeah,
And I feel like that's when we get the best results, when everybody's bought in. I've had kids that I work with for like a year now, and like where they were when we started and where they are now, it's head and shoulders above where they were before.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, my thought process is, you know, you know, I'm not about specializing though, for sure. I think every kid needs, you know, a big melting pot full of um, stimulus, right? Things that, you know, until a certain point, right? And though at a certain point, though when a kid knows, man, a kid knows, right? So we have some
Mm-hmm.
tennis players, right? We have some softball players, and I train them like football players. We have some football players, I train them like baseball players. It's like, and what does it mean to train someone like someone else, right? It's like, pretty much, though, I'm giving you the same stimulus that they get all the time, right? You got to work on your hand-eye coordination because you're a baseball player. Your game's a little bit slower, right? You got to work on your, agility more as a baseball player if you want to be able to move better, right? So we put some
Mm-hmm.
kids in college, based on the fact that, they've been consistent, right? The ones that have made it, though, to college started in COVID when they were 12, and now those ones are the best athletes in their college because they started at an early age, because they
Mm-hmm.
developed themselves, to a consistent basis. And it was a blessing too. Like COVID was a crazy time because then you didn't have to go to school, so you're like almost in a damn reclass like program to where you
Yeah.
4 days a week, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to make miracles if Johnny's coming in 2 days a week and he's doing 1 hard hour. It's like, bro, what are you doing outside of that 1 hour, Johnny? Do we have a program for you for you to be doing? But back then, like in those times too, like JB, we sometimes be like in there rocking for 2 hours. You know what I mean? And it's like, how much can you focus to as well?
Mm-hmm.
So parents know their kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, your kid can't focus, man. I don't know why you trying to say something to me about the lack of focus that you've created though at home. So
Yeah.
when we do like 7v7, right? So like, man, as soon as we get there, I'm like, bro, you guys get no phones. I'm that kind of coach. It's like, though, you can't be on your phones though until it's time though for you to go, because your focus is now though distracted. Like you're taking your mind, your focus away from where we need to be. So you either up watching someone else play, you know what I'm saying? You catching the ball. We're talking about a situation that, has transpired, man, in the game that can help us, but I'm a big advocate of 7v7. And I know there's a lot of people that feel like, okay, this is not good though for quarterbacks. But if you look at all the best ones, it's like, bro, all of them have played it and they're a little bit better now. There's rookies that walk in to the league. There's players that walk into college as the starter because they got that stimulus of reps, of a
Mm-hmm.
crazy amount of reps with really tight windows, man. The higher level that you play at, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you feel about the sevens thing?
I have my own team, and
Respect.
originally, yeah, we're based out of Indiana, and it's with another CFL NFL player, Antonio Pipkin. He played at Tiffin
Okay.
University, and I was against it for a while, but then I started realizing that it is valuable, and it's all about how it's coached.
Yeah.
So we coach our kids. We have a 10U team, we have a 12U team, we have a 14U team. We coach them like pros.
Yeah.
So we make sure like when the 10U kids are up, because everybody runs the same playbook,
Yeah.
right? We have it's a good playbook, but it's also simple. I don't think we need to overcomplicate football. It's a simple game,
Yeah.
And it's like when the 12U team's up, everybody else is watching them, because if coach gives them a coaching point, you guys better not make the same mistake, or
Amen.
you better be able to repeat what coach said, so you're actively listening, right? And we're just very fundamental. Like I'm very big on the fundamentals because I wasn't a natural route runner. Football, I was a basketball player,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I could always catch because I could always rebound. And basketball, I feel like, is one of the best sports that translates to being a wide receiver,
Yeah.
a tight end, whatever it might be. But like I had to genuinely study the game, the art of wide receiver, the art of getting off the line and holding your line. High pointing the ball was never an issue because, like I said, I go up and get rebounds. That just came natural to me. So when I see like a lot of these guys try to mimic a lot of these things they see on social media and they don't know why they're doing it, that's when I have an issue.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a lot of issues when it comes to like the drills and stuff that are popular on Instagram, but I have an issue with the kids that don't even have a fundamental foundation of the position. I'm talking wide receiver specifically because we're both wide receivers.
Yeah.
Going out and trying to do this like cute stuff and then getting hemmed up on the line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah.
So we just rep fundamentals. You need to be a student of the game. You need to know how to read coverages. And if we could teach you that when you're a 10-year-old, when you get to high school, it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I mean, you touched on social media a bit earlier, and I feel like it's been a blessing and a curse. I think it's been a blessing as far as there's people that may not have had a big platform that have posted a video and it's changed their lives.
Yeah.
Right. But then I feel like it's also been a curse because it's like an overload of information. And, kids are getting so many different opinions, different voices on what they should do. And I'm not saying you're right. I'm not saying I'm right, but I can see why it might be confusing on like, why I don't want to do this in a game when this guy with 500,000 followers is telling me like, this is what you need to do. But, that guy didn't play at a high level or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about anybody specific, but it's just like you see a lot of people that have credentials because they have a big following, but then they don't really know the game that well.
Yeah, for sure. Experience brings context, and content brings followers, and that's some people are really good, right? There's a one guy right off my head, right, that I just feel like does a really good job of producing a ton of content and putting out a lot of information, so people feel the need that that's where they need to go, right? But football, there is no certification for football, right? So it's like the certification is that you've experienced it though at a high level, but then you've also been able to produce a couple people to say that you can speak the language, right? Some guys, if you live in Houston, you have an opportunity, right? Or Texas or something, though, you have an opportunity to experience a higher level of athlete, right? So regardless, like some people may like that's where the vacation home is. So that's where they feel like they need to go and they need to find a trainer, man, in that area. And the trainer, oh man, all right, is it still good?
Yep.
Okay, yeah,
we're good.
And sometimes that trainer may not necessarily all they tend to be doing is mimicking what they see from someone that they feel is preaching the right message. So what we do is we create like situations that apply. I feel like if you teach a wide receiver what the defense is doing, you know what I mean? You give them a better understanding of the game as a whole, right? It's like, okay, if I'm in the slot and I know that the outside linebacker, man, is trying to reroute me, but I know how to stem him to get him to move out so I can slip and stay away from the seam so I'm not close though to the safety. That's a good drill. And now if you make drills based off of that, then I understand what you're teaching. But one of our first conversations again was like, man, it's some of these dudes are just teaching, what to do at the line of scrimmage, and you hardly face press. It's like, bro, how many times? Like, who's really pressing me that much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
every team is not playing press. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you don't always have to just work on one aspect of the game. Like, the really good trainers I see create, drills based off of that. I love to see them, have some sort of flow that involves more than one person, wiggling. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what brings value, because you have to be able to apply it though to the game.
Yeah. And even when you look at like a lot of the top level guys, they do these drills in the off season, but then when they get in the game, it's about like timing.
Yeah.
And it's about, you have to be, you can't do too much at the line. Like everybody knows that. Like the higher level you get to, you start to be able to do less because the athletes just get better.
Yeah.
And it's something that I always say is like, guys, every person like at the next level, college, pros, they were the man in their high school. Then when you get to the pros, they were the man in college, right? Whether they went to a small school or they went to a big school, they were most likely the man at their school. Right. So everybody has similar athletic abilities. And then you get like the outliers that are like the top money guys that are, you know, the best of the best. Right. That's always going to happen. But then when you look at a guy like, say, Devontae Adams, when I look at him play, he really only has two things that he does at the line. He does like a speed release, and then he does that little like split release where he kind of eats up the cushion, boom, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like those are two things he has in his tool belt that he can go to every single time.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm throwing different things at receivers in the offseason, I'm like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. It's like, well, now it gets a little more complicated than it has to be, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to win at the line, right? You need to be able to hold your line, and you need to be able to be where you're at when the quarterback thinks you're going to be there.
Yeah.
If you can do those three things, you're going to be effective as a wide receiver.
I mean, 100%. I 100% agree. I think that's, you know, I think it brings so much value though to the game if you can keep it simple and play fast, right? To go back to what we talked about though about speed. You know, the thing that really made me super fast was long jump, right? Was learning was learning how to take an approach. You know what I mean? And then my junior college coach though would always say, Mo, man, you know what the thing is that makes you super special is your ability is your ability to close the gap, like between the receiver and the DB. Like, you know, so we work a lot on that. It's like, you know, how quick though can you get to his toes and reset the line of scrimmage, right? If he's playing off, there's going to be a new line of scrimmage at some point, and you got to figure out though how you're going to move that dude laterally to where you want him to be. I think that's imperative. I think that's so crucial that we teach kids though how to get the defensive backs where we want them to be, and then to use what you're taught. You know, so, you know, yeah, we got the same group, man. And then we have, you know, 10, 12 we have two teams at each group. So for us, we watch film. Like we'll record it at the games with parents film. So like tonight is, you know, we do like a mental performance, you know, sports psychology little thing that we do with our kids, and then we watch film. Like we get them to sit down and break down film, because it wasn't until I really started to understand how to watch film that the game really got slow for me. And I was like, oh, okay, like you guys are doing this, and then I'll make them like break down like a defensive back. Like you have to look at this DB, and you got to tell me everything that you noticed about what he's doing, and you know how he's gonna, you know, play you. And sometimes, man, the kids be like, oh, yeah, he's like the dude, though, with the green shoes always likes to shuffle, though, before he, you know what I mean? You know, it's just little cues that kind of help the guys develop, right, what's important, though, before they get older.
Yeah, because when you have an idea of what is coming, then you can just react. You know what I mean? And like you said earlier in the conversation, as the game becomes slower, I had a fundamental understanding of football. I don't know what it's like at the college level now, but I feel like I didn't learn a lot as far as like the X's and O's.
Yeah.
Until I got to Calgary and I was under Dave Dickinson, and I was in the room with guys like Bo Levi Mitchell. And I give a lot of credit to the receivers that were older than me, like Marquay McDaniel and Bakari Grant. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I remember getting thrown into practice with the older guys when I was a rookie, and, you know, Coach Dickey's telling me to learn multiple spots, but like I didn't have the brain capacity to learn more than one spot, and I get thrown in at the X, and, you know, I'm messing up, and I'm like, damn, like this sucks. Like, I could potentially be effective at this position. And it's like, okay, you need to start watching more film. You need to get in your playbook. Or I remember, like, in the CFL, like we run a lot of like switch concepts where like switch routes, or sometimes you might switch stems, but you keep your route on. I remember like during a switch release with Marquay, I messed up. So I messed him up mid route. He's like, man, get in your effing playbook. And I'm just like, all right, this is the pros now. And then I started looking at how he took care of his body, started looking at how he approached the game. The one thing I loved about Marquay's game was he made everything look the same.
Yeah.
Right. So whether he was running a go ball, he was running an out route, he was running a dig, he was running a post, it would all look the same. And then he would give a little burst at the top and like go into like that second or third gear. So as a big guy, I knew that I could make my strides look the same, but I could also cover ground. So similar to you, and I was in a slot with the waggle. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have to worry about my acceleration because I knew my top end speed was fast. Yeah. So when guys, they'd see me, it looked like I was running slow. And when I got close to them and I would hit another gear, like I was gone. Yeah. And then once I started like learning the game within the game, it got a lot more fun and it got a lot more easier.
Yeah. No, we all have to be rookies, and it's a blessing though to be behind someone that it's a really good talent is to be able to see something, do something, and be able to take it from him. And who Marquay had when he was in Hamilton is he had Arlen Bruce.
Ooh, I remember him.
Yeah, Brucey was smooth, crazy, and then he had this crazy burst. But he had this ability to catch the ball and not and look until the ball came. Boom, the ball would just
lay hands, in
the bucket. So I think Quay took a lot of that, from Arlen, right? Like a lot of that ability to make everything look the same. And we had a really good team though that year. We had Kevin Glenn and Chris Williams, a lot of really good athletes, and Bakari too. So like he was on the team, and that's a good buddy of mine that I still go and visit. So I think the CFL game definitely helped for the system that I call in 7v7. You know what I mean? We do a lot of stuff like quads. Like we overload like one side of the field, right? We're a big post wheel flat guy, team, right? Because it just creates leverage on one side of the field, and I think a lot of the guys, it starts to make sense. It's like if they don't eventually, Jordan Younger taught me though, about how to play match. Match coverage, right? Like you got to have 4/3, you got to have 3/2. You got to figure out though how to trap people in certain spots though of the field. You need to know what the line to divide a third is, right? So being around those guys early, I think, will eventually make me a really good coach. And I do hope at some point to be able to coach men in Canada again.
Yeah.
I mean,
have you ever thought about guest coaching?
I went up there one time. Now JB, man, I just got married though too as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Right, and I got a baby girl though on the way, and I'm like, oh man,
congrats again.
I don't know if I'm ready to spend that time away, but I went up there with Jason Moss, right? So I did two of them. I did Edmonton, and then I did Montreal. My thing is that I wanted to finish school. I think, kids, if anyone is watching this, I think the most important thing now that the transfer portal has changed, I think a lot of kids don't even really care to finish school, and they need to. I think they need to stay in school until they finish, because now, I'm headed into 42, and I'll finally be a college graduate in like 6 weeks, right? Which is a blessing. Thank you. Yeah, so a lot of good things coming in 2025, the year of completion. So it's going to be that.
What made you want to finish school and graduate?
It was Deion Sanders. It was prime. It was him. There was something though he said though a while back. He was like, man, a lot of there's a lot of good trainers out there. I never really though consider myself to be a trainer, but yeah, it is kind of what I'm doing. And he was like, a lot of good trainers or coaches, but I can't really take someone on that hasn't you know dotted their I's and crossed their T's with the education system part of it. It's like you can't though recruit, you can't be a part of something if you haven't went through it though yourself. I never really though understood that. I'm like, man, I can coach though with the best of them, but I hadn't really finished my degree, and the way the world is set up now, it's like there's no excuses though for you not to be able to finish your education. Um, so I started 2 years ago. I needed a couple credits. I tried to do junior college again. I tried to go back and get some extra stuff going, and my world just got busy. So I've been taking an online the curriculum that's gave me a chance though to be able to finish, man, and I'm super excited about it. But it was Dion. He was like, man, you gotta have that if you want to come up here and coach. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that done.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I took a break from my master's just because it was starting to get a little bit expensive. I'm getting my master's in counseling psychology.
Oh, nice.
I took a little break, but I'm almost done. Like I'm super close. So I know that I'm going to finish that. And then I've also been thinking about getting my CSCS for like coaching.
Yeah,
Just because, like you said, like you never know, like what opportunities might come across your desk, and I don't want to have any opportunities come up to where someone tells me I'm not qualified.
yeah,
And I also feel like what makes you and I special, and a lot of people that just want to be like the best at what they do, is like that want to like continue to learn and not be complacent in what they know.
yeah.
And I think education is super valued, whether it's you're listening to podcasts or listening to audiobooks, you're watching videos, whatever it is, as long as you stay curious, you'll never be complacent.
That man, that's a bar there, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
um,
important.
yeah, I mean, we've been at this thing for an hour.
Yeah.
What I like to ask before we come to an end is, what is a piece of advice that you would have gave your younger self if you could talk to young Mo today?
Man. Um, if I could talk to young Mo, I would definitely. I would go back to earlier, man, in our conversation where you know, patience is what you do while is the definition of what you're doing while you're waiting, right? It's like um, there's tons of times to where I've been in limbo between a job or an opportunity to play again, and I think making those choices um, to sometimes stay at home. I really love what Travis Hunter talks about doing though too as well, and this is why he's such a good athlete. Is like he makes some pretty good choices though with his free time. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And whether it's staying home to play a video game or going to work out, I think I would tell myself you don't always have to be seen. You don't always have to be in the mix with everything. You could definitely take some time to you know work on yourself more, and I would read more books, right? So guys out there, man, remember it was really cool to see like AJ Brown pulling out that book though on the sideline, and that was a crazy thing because that's how I feel like I am now. That like I have a moment, man, and like any chance to read, I'll sit down and be like, all right, man, let me get you know a good 20 minutes of reading in and see how much, man, I can learn. Because I feel like learning is growth, right? It's definitely
Mm-hmm.
growth. It's not. It's That's the thing that I would say. I would say, be patient, and and work on your ability to learn as much as you can, because that's what separates people.
I love that. Because what they say with age comes experience and wisdom, and you're never too old to learn something new.
Yeah.
So, you might have not done it when you're younger, but you're doing it now, and you have the opportunity to pour into younger versions of yourself or people that have great opportunities to do something great, and you're going to be a pivotal part in their life.
Oh yeah, no man. No, that's good though, JB. Like, how would you answer that, right? And then take a couple gems back though to my kids.
Oh man, I feel like there's so many things that I experienced throughout my career. But I think one thing that I'm realizing looking back on my career is just always have that belief in yourself.
Oh yeah,
And don't attach your, I guess, image, like your self belief or the way you view yourself based off other people's opinions.
hmm
Because for me, I was always like the player that wanted to do everything right because I wanted the coaches to see me in a positive way, or know that like I cared, or that I was a great teammate.
yeah,
And I would lose track of like what was best for me, and like
yeah,
standing up for myself, you know, there was times where it was like I felt like I was by myself. I was in college, my parents weren't there. It's like I had to go to bat for myself, and I never did. So if I were to go back and talk to my younger self, I would just say like believe in what you believe in, and don't let your self belief waver based off of other people's positive or negative opinions. Because when they're positive, it's great, but when they're negative, it hits you harder.
yeah, exactly. No, that's good.
So
I mean, you definitely have to stand on business, man. You fall for anything, you know, you know, stand for something or fall for anything. Really, is what I've been trying to say, right? And it's definitely important though for me as a person, and the way I teach my kids is definitely though to put God first, right? Is you
mm,
know, but what that ultimately means is like, man, praying is a part of it, but working is more a part of it though too as well. Like you have to think though to yourself though. You can't just wait for things though to happen though. You actually got to go out there and do them. So, um, no, man, this was fun. I appreciate though being able to sit here, man, and catch up with you and speak about some times, and this trip down like memory lane was super cool.
I appreciate having you, and whenever you want to get back on, let's do it.
All
It
right.
was great to learn more about you, get to know you. I look forward to all the great things that you're going to do. I'll be following your journey. Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to plug? Your 7-on-7 team, your business, your Instagram, whatever it might be.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Get Better or Get Beat. We have a website, which is manupathletics, .com. We have a nonprofit, and where we do a mentorship program, to help athletes and do college tours. We're going to visit Oregon again though this year, which is a great trip. If anyone wants to donate to that, they can find those links on my Instagram or on the website. We have an app though coming out though very soon, to where we'll be working on the receiver techniques and mentorship programs, but ultimately a place where coaches can help coach, right, or learn something. I think there's times to where we cater to a lot of what the athletes need, but I think the coaches and the parents need a lot of information though too as well. So I try to take my lane towards getting the parents though to understand, you know, what's the what's the best timing for stuff, right? So they know, because the world is changing though through technology, and it's not like the kids are out of the loop. It's sometimes the parents though get out of the loop. They don't know how to keep up with the new stuff, right? So yeah, that's kind of what I would say, though, for that. I want to thank you, though, for having me. I want to, though, congratulate you, man, again, man, on being married, bro. It's a blessing, finding that person, though, for me, definitely has changed everything in every way I feel about how I move around. And I know that must feel the same way, though, for you. And no, I'm just grateful, man, though, to be able to do this.
I appreciate your time. And like I said, man, I look forward to watching everything you do, your development. I'll be following your team. And if anybody wants to reach out, make sure you connect with him on Instagram. Donate to all the great things he's doing, because he's going to be changing a lot of lives and a lot of young athletes. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. All right. Peace.
Peace.